previous video, we talked about a specific business case with strategic data governance when I was talking to Jeff. And I'd just like to include a little bit more detail because we started to talk about some of the tooling and how that can prevent some of the problems that you had.
So basically what the story was is that they were using Informatica, okay, and had been using it for some years. They actually started with Power Center and in terms of using it for ETL. And then they just migrated across to the modules for data governance. So they'd never actually really implemented the data governance modules, which included the catalog, the glossary, lineage work, some data quality work. And so as a result of that, it was just the central team that was primarily using it for capturing things like the metadata, definitions, and who the data owners were, and where this data was located within the environment. And of course, only a small portion of the environment had been captured up to that state. The general feeling was, and forgive me Informatica, but given it wasn't fully implemented, it probably got a bit of a short shrift there. It was felt that it wasn't very user-friendly. So some parts of the organisation had attempted to use the user interface. My personal opinion is that the drawers were empty primarily. So mostly people would go to the catalogue, start looking for data, and it wasn't there because it hadn't been captured yet because it's such a big job. Maybe 20 of the 1,400 systems had been captured. So as you can imagine, if you were interested in one of the other systems, you go looking for it, you don't find it, which turns you off using the tool. So there is a threshold that you have to get to before tools like that are very useful. But what that did is it left the organisation, particularly the senior executive, to the point where they felt maybe the tool isn't right. And so that's when we started to look for things like that network monitoring piece that we were talking about earlier. But we did a pilot on that. And as we found out, it doesn't really have a full glossary. It only has a glossary that was based on the information that was flowing between systems, which was great because it helped us find some of that data that we didn't know was there before. But it quickly became obvious a lot of the data that we already knew about because of Informatica wasn't being captured at all. So as a result, we knew if we kept going down that track and then moved Informatica aside, then we would have been missing out on a very large portion of our highly risky data, and also glossaries and definitions and so on. So it was really important to go through that exercise. And now it's been decided that no, we do need a proper data governance, enterprise level data governance capability. And so we've continued to expand out the enterprise data catalog and the data glossary, and to vastly uplift the amount of data lineage that's being captured within that system. And that's become the hooks around which everything else is being built. So there is some work being done outside of Informatica in the data quality space. So we did build a completely bespoke system that was hanging off Informatica. Once again, I don't know if that pilot was overly successful. So we're going to be probably looking even further. So we may be looking at some other opportunities within the market. And the other part, of course, too, is that the Informatica system is on premise at the moment. And so it'll be a natural evolution as large amounts of the information move into the cloud, that the data catalog and data glossary move with it into the cloud. And that'll be a natural inflection point to allow us to do a review of what other data governance tools might be useful. So it might not automatically be Informatica Data Cloud. It might be one of the other competitors, but for the moment we're sticking with that particular tooling. Now on top of that, one of the things we realised is that, particularly in the area of data quality, one of the most powerful pieces of work in the area of data quality is actually analytics. And we had tons of those people. And sure, most of them were working on things like reporting, analytics, data science models, big data type stuff. But very few of them were actually working on enterprise data quality. Some of them were doing data quality for their particular use case. And as a result, what was happening was that was being done. But then once it went into production, they moved on to another reporting or analytics or modeling piece of work. And then the work they were doing in the data quality pretty much got left behind. And then another project might start up for another data product. and they weren't reusing the work that had been done before. So a very important piece was to make sure we got reuse of existing data quality work that was going on. But also what we did then was we made a dedicated data quality analytics team.
Right.
So their job is now to go through and do things. We called them a data quality gorilla approach, where you actually go in and you have a look for things like impossible data. So, 400-year-old customers or time travelers who were born in the future, or people who are consuming services where the large organisation does not actually provide services. So we were looking for those impossible data. We were also looking for using analytics again. If you've got two sides to an interface, you can compare what one side thinks is the truth against what the other side thinks is the truth. And no matter what you do, when you do a reconciliation using analytics, you find inconsistencies that are built up over time. So that gives you a good idea about one or the other or both are wrong. So you need to work out and work through how to fix those up. So analytics is a really important driver of particularly data quality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you talk about the data lineage, so the data life cycle was the key to work out, those different stages where the data is and to apply the right controls.
Yeah. So I think it's worth mentioning there's multiple data life cycles, right? So you've got your data life cycle within your system. So you've got your ingestion, you've got your storage, you've got your use, you've got your archiving and backup, and then eventually purging and destruction. So that's one data life cycle. But another data life cycle is actually the flow of the data through the organization. So it gets ingested into a primary system, and then it gets extracted and put into something like a data platform, a secondary system, and then possibly gets used within a data product, such as a report or a visualization or a model. So that's another set of data flows that are going on. And then there's the data flows into your various layers. So you have production layer, which is obviously where your live data is. But if you're particularly in the area of analytics, you're testing your new functionality, you need to be using live, as close to live data as possible, so you can pick up, particularly in the area of data quality analytics, as we found out, you need to be using production data for analytics testing, which is different to solution testing for other functionality testing. You don't need live data for that. But effectively, that's the other data flow is from your production system to your pre-production and testing and systems as well. And then you have to keep on top of that. And the reason is because the judge is going to come along and say, you must forget, Nigel's data. So we need to not only get rid of it from the primary system, we need to get rid of it in the backup. We need to get rid of it in where it's flowed into the secondary and the production reports, and we need to get rid of it from pre-production and test as well. Otherwise, it can come back up again.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant, because I think we covered it, like a lot of the people and the process and the information side of things in the first video, but that was really good to cover the technology. And I guess one of the things that strategic architects have is a course on strategic data governance and the ability to engage with a workshop. And there's outstanding experts like Jeff and your team, that are available as well. So there's different ways that we can be engaged. And as you heard today, it's very important, data governance. And it is becoming, a talked about thing in the executive rooms and stuff.